so very good.
Welcome to the Good GMs podcast. I'm E.E. Morris, and today's episode is Wake Up GM, a Knife Theory Mystery. And now here's Chuck and James.
Hello, listeners, viewers, and people who are just sensing this with their third eye. We're happy to have you here on our show. I'm James, and I am joined, as always, with...
Chuck E.T., good to see y'all. Glad to
Did
hear.
you rub
Have
your
fun.
third eye?
I did not.
I will find out someday, maybe.
Someday.
Well,
What's
someday.
under the hat?
What's under the hat?
My
Bunch of
luscious
snakes.
hat.
He's a Medusa.
Hey, that's a surprise.
That's a surprise. So today is a good day. We are back to just Chuck and me. Not to say that other guests haven't been fantastic, but we've done a few episodes with guests, and now we're just back to basics. It's really nice to be with you.
They were okay.
They were okay. I mean, they're no Chuck and James. Actually, one of them is James, but that's another story. That's a different James. Other James. We are here today to talk about some basics like knife theory. I don't know if you know about knife theory, but we'll get into that. But first, our producer has mandated that we speak about our sponsor, and considering our producer works with our sponsor, I think.
Do not say their name.
Oh yeah, they might appear like they did accidentally in our pre-recording. Yes, Rainey Robertson. I just said it. I only said it once. You might know her from our actual play of ETU. She's the producer for the show, and she's the one who really makes the clock tick. Right?
Absolutely.
We would just be talking in two cans with a string between here and Michigan if it wasn't for.
That is also true.
It wasn't for her. So the sponsor for today is Red Juice Studio. RedJuiceStudio.com. That's the company that does our production and puts out our podcasts and helps with our promotion. And if you've got a podcast, if you're listening to this episode and you've got a podcast idea but not sure where to start, or maybe you already have a podcast, you've got some episodes recorded but you don't seem to find any traction because you're not really sure how to promote it, give us a call. Give them a call at redjuicestudio.com and check out there's apparently a kitty on their splash page that everybody seems to be raving about. So for all your podcast needs, redjuicestudio.com.
Absolutely. You should go see it now.
Yes. We should go now. Okay, we'll wait. So back to back to knife theory.
Yes.
Do you know about knife theory? I know I mentioned this to you in discussion about this episode, but
let's pretend like I have no clue what this is.
Well, fair enough. So that's a yes. You have an idea of what knife theory is, or
a little bit.
A little bit. Okay, so. Basic backstory, basic history stuff. 2017, there was a post on Reddit by a fellow named Jim Baby who posted about how his group uses this thing they call knife theory. And it became super viral, and it's spread around. It's been remastered, re-released. It's been published in a few different ways. There's a one available I found on. It was on GM Binder, which is a website. I don't know if it's still available there, but it's basically the gist is knife theory is a way to get your players to invest in their backstory in a way that you can use it as a GM. So in other words, imagine you're a blacksmith and you've crafted this beautiful, ornate knife with a jewel on the hilt, and it's polished to a shine, and you've gently handed it to your assassin. And in a way that's kind of the premise, right? So by adding certain things into your backstory, you are giving your GM permission to stab you with this knife.
Hurt me.
Figuratively, right? So why it really is a player facing idea, but why I thought I'd bring it up for you and I to talk about today is it's something that if you know as a GM, you can bring it up and suggest it to your players when they're making
absolutely.
See,
I love the fact that, like, especially since we've been sitting down and talk about this, like for me, because we've been GMing for a couple of days now, and I just
half at best,
right? See, I'm not going to age myself. Stop that. And
we did that in episode 1, man.
we did. Dang it! So I just love the fact that things that weren't quantified back in the day. It's like, well, tell me about your backstory. It's like, oh, this and that. For me, as it was coming through, I just always I didn't have like a term for it.
No.
It was just, what's your backstory? Okay, and then be like, well, that's lame. Tell me something. Tell me something about your character, for God's sakes.
Right?
Give me something.
Give me something. Well, and it's funny because you've got a couple of people who write backstories, and a couple of, like, for example, Claire in our game, a novel, right? Like I had to use Speechify just to get through it. No, but it's great, and she loves doing it, right? And you can tell when she plays how invested she is in that character,
right?
Some GMs are like, oh, I don't care about your backstory, but guess what? Some players are like, oh, I don't care about your lore. So if you want people to invest in your story, you got to drag them into it. And by with Knife Theory, I find it's a very good way to get to find a way to bring your characters into the story that connects directly to them. Now, let's go back a step. What does it mean? What are the knife theory? What's in the knife block, right?
Okay.
So here's a list. So you've got a named person that your PC cares about. So for every person that's in your backstory that is a name, now you can lump them. So for example, you have a family with like a mom, dad, your brother. That's one knife, right? Okay. A phobia or trauma, something your character has experienced, something that maybe a reoccurring nightmare, that kind of thing. Okay. A mystery, so unknown parents or unexplained powers or like lost time or something like that, right? Okay. Then you have an enemy or rival, so somebody from your past that might show up to hound you. Then you have obligation or loyalty, so maybe your character is a father and you have a child that you have to take care of, or maybe your character has a job, a secret identity, you have to go take pictures of Spider-Man or something, right?
Right.
A failure or a shame, so something that happened in your past that your character regrets, or that your character doesn't want people to know about, maybe, but that goes into a later one, which is a secret, right?
Exactly.
Crimes that the PC committed or was falsely accused of. So, for example, you could say, well, my character in this other town committed this crime, and now I'm being hunted. Or I was framed for a murder I didn't commit, and now I have to find a one-armed man or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Right. I'm just using examples.
No, it's true though. And then those tropes are there for a reason.
Exactly. So two more that I've got here, and you can, if you think of any, a favorite item, heirloom, or memento. So a picture of your late wife, or a watch that your grandfather gave you, and then a secret. Like I said before, something you've been keeping, whether it's your secret about you or a secret that somebody has confided in you that you're keeping. So these are all ways that the character has written this rich backstory. So the player has written this rich backstory, so they're invested in the game. But you as a GM now have a toolbox.
Yeah.
So you're telling your story. Your story is about how you have to stop the machinations of the elder god before the end of the world, whatever.
Right.
But also, one of your characters has an ex-lover or something that went missing, and now you can bring them back into the story in some way or another.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's just ways for the player to get into a character and maybe, just maybe, avoid bleed. We'll talk about that on another episode. And
tell us for the sake of it. Bleed. We're talking about knives.
It's so that like your life isn't bleeding into your character's life, so you get the opportunity to play someone that you would never really play before,
right?
And that's kind of the whole point of these games.
That's right. Well, and it's funny because sometimes you do want to play somebody that's close to you to help play through some of those things. And it's funny when you said bleed, I was wondering, I wanted to clarify, because I also know about emotional bleed, which is during a game session something happened, and after the game session it still feels like it happened.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So with the knife theory, again, for me, this is all just basic stuff.
Yeah,
which is good. And I'm glad that
for me, it's not exactly basic stuff. I think by putting a language to it and giving an idea to it,
quantify it.
qualify it
Yeah.
and quantify it, right? So
Exactly.
how many knives is a good backstory? How many knives is too much? What's a dull knife? What's a sharp knife?
That's
This is what we
that's
should
the
talk about.
trick.
Yeah.
That's the trick. I get that. Yeah. And these are
Theory
all
itself says like 7 to 12. I think 7 might.
wow.
I mean, that feels a bit high for. It depends on the length of your campaign too, right? Like if you're doing.
Well, I mean, like this list here is 9.
Yeah, but you could have multiple secrets, or you could have multiple named NPCs, or
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, um, the list that you sent me, this is a good list. This is a very good list, and it's universal
Mhm.
for any game.
Well, and I'm definitely going to include the link to the original feed.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
From Jim Baby, and yeah.
Because all of these, even if you were to, for your session 0, put these out for the players and just have them put one thing, just one thing. You don't like, I don't care if you have extended family, friends, blah blah blah. No, it's okay. Just give me one, and then like a named person. Now let's move on to phobias and traumas. Just give me one. It just go down. If every player does that, you got hooks galore.
Oh yeah.
To run, all sorts of good stuff and help make that character feel like they are really part of the story.
Well, and you don't have to use them all. Like that's the whole point. If you have a list of say 7 or even like 5, I would say a 5 would be a good minimum. I think 12 is probably too many personally. I think I wouldn't.
That's way too much. That's
way
too much.
But remember, there is okay. So let's talk about the fact that if you do have too many of these knives in your backstory, and you want to make sure all of them are included, and you're trying to get the GM to bring them into the story or whatever, those knives end up stabbing the rest of the party. They're not just about getting you a spotlight moment from time to time. It's about all of a sudden every episode has to be about you trying to find the guy who killed your dog, or like something to that, so it's okay when there's a hook there here or there, right? Like and then I guess the idea of knives, the sharper the knife would be something that your character really cares about or that can come back in. But another idea could be like a dull knife, which would be like, I committed a crime and was falsely accused, but proved my innocence, and I've reconciled with the people involved.
That's not a knife.
That's not a knife
because it's been resolved.
I can't pick that out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay.
All right.
Got anything else? Well, my mother and my father are dead. I don't have any siblings.
They died of old age.
I don't know my family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay. Well, then maybe is it a secret that you don't know? No, I just never got to know.
I just don't care. Yeah. See, and that's the kind of thing. It's like
the player has to invest, and I think
absolutely
next
be
episode
vulnerable.
We should talk
for God's sakes. It's okay. Be vulnerable. Because I hate that stuff. I hate the tough guy routine. It's like, yeah, you can be a tough guy every once in a while, but man, it's okay. Be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And these knives help with that. Yeah.
Right. Well, here, let's do something for fun. Let's have a look. I asked you to kind of come prepared for your character that you're playing in my Mass and Iron Lithotep game. We'll talk about, do you want Finn or Kurt? Who do you want to talk about?
Oh, no. Finn, because if I start thinking about Kurt, the two will start getting blended together.
There you go. And again, nobody knows what we're talking about, but I've been running this game for over a year now, and Chuck he sidelined one of his characters because he felt like playing another character, but just wanted to try something new. But so his current character is Finn Mueller, who's a gambler, a bit of a ladies' man, and personal security for Lady Justine.
Oh,
so
here we go.
What kind of knives have you got? Like, I know you've mentioned them in our show, in our episodes. We've talked about certain characters or whatever, but if you looked at that list, how many knives do you think that you have for your backstory that
I can hit almost all of these, and that's important because it's important to me.
Because again, I should know these things too as your GM. It'd be really good to have this list, and I really should get my players to give me this list, right?
Yeah, actually, you really should. Yeah. And I highly recommend this for all GMs out there. I recommend this for players when you're making a character. The stats aren't everything.
No,
take this list, fill this up.
Start with the list. Start with your backstory.
Absolutely.
Then start putting dots on paper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And so the other thing to remember with this, your backstory is worthless if you don't bring it into the game.
Yeah.
As a player, do not sit there and expect the GM to constantly be pushing your backstory. It's your backstory.
Mhm.
Feel
But-
free.
but
Bring
as
in
a-
it. Doesn't have
as a
to be
good
every
GM,
time,
As a
but
good
bring in
GM,
little bits.
you can start looking at those things. Like
Yes.
you are, your mother went missing, and one of the things I read that I liked was being able to incorporate two. So your mother went missing. This
Yes.
character's hunting a cult. What if your mother is a member of that cult? If you can tie two knives together, now you have a double-bladed knife.
See that? Darth Mullet. Here we go. So yes, so for for Finn Mueller,
Oh yeah, here we go.
ex-thief, ex-soldier, ex-gambler, now dipping his toes into private security. Here we go.
Here we go.
So yeah, named person. The family thing. For Finn, I wasn't really interested in the family thing.
Person other than you mentioned that your parents had died and that you were raised by your uncle, and you
Yes.
had a dog named Chopper or something.
Yes, yeah, because I thought that'd be funny. And now, so the named person.
But I'm not going to be bringing Chopper into this because he's long dead. Dogs don't.
No, but what that gave you was one. It was something funny. It was like,
Yeah.
okay, something funny. That oh my god, Finn has a light right now, light phobia of angry dogs.
Yeah, there you
of
go. There's your
angry
phobia.
dogs, like a kind passive dog, Finn doesn't care about. Well, it's an angry dog that can
That would
freeze
trigger
him up.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It triggers him. The uncle. So for Finn, he doesn't like abusive male figures.
Right.
It pushes him.
Mhm.
because
So that's
he
in a
doesn't-
way. Is that an obligation?
He doesn't like that.
We call that an obligation because I think that could be used as an
Yeah.
obligation.
Yes.
It's definitely something I could bring into the game to
Yeah.
to
Absolutely.
I
And
want
that's
Finn to step up. Then I can say, well, this character's pushing somebody else around.
could
Yeah.
be. Or like pushing pushing a lady around, because again, Finn doesn't always fancy himself a ladies' man, but again, I think like in the game he's like 25.
Yeah, no, he's I don't know. He's in his
25,
30s at this point, early 30s at this point, but yeah.
Something like that. So
He's young, I remember that.
And he
served in the Great War, so I know he's
and he didn't just serve in the Great War. He served and survived. One of the worst trench war battles in the World War I. So that's another trauma that carries over with him.
Right.
And that was a big difference between Finn and Kurt, is that Kurt thrived in that environment.
Right.
And Finn just survived.
See, and that's why I'm surprised you didn't pick Kurt for this, because Kurt had a sister that he's
multiple
heavily invested
names.
in.
Exactly.
Multiple names. He had a situation where he almost killed his mother because of a flashback in the war.
Yes.
So there's your secret. There's your failure, your shame, right? You had a lot of those things that I remember clearly.
Yes.
So keep going with Finn. Let's hear some
Yeah.
more.
So like I said, that one uncle gave me multiple things I could bring into the story that I could throw out for you to bring in and make interesting situations. And from that, it just draws all these other little knives.
Right. It's got his pocket watch, right? He's got that.
Yes, the pocket watch. Just a little quirk. Little quirk. Now when he got back from the war, he wanted to change. That's a big thing with Finn, is changing.
Right.
He did not like the war. For him, it's not a thing of glory. And so he wanted to change. And so he got cussing, because
how would I as a GM, let's keep this on topic, because I mean,
yeah.
How would I as a GM, that to me, other than maybe if somebody like picked your pocket and you lost your knife, or your watch rather, that would be something that would maybe cause Finn to go, well, I need to get it back. We need to go back to that place where it went missing, and I need to,
Right, because right now he's attached. He's emotionally attached to that watch. It's instead of smoking all the time, it's like he'll fiddle with the watch. It's just something there that he's now needing. It's like his blanket, well, like the obligation and loyalty. Yeah, it was to Kurt, and that's how I was able to bring him in, is
Right.
because
He owed him from the war,
he owed him,
and
which I thought was ironic, because Finn tells everyone that Kurt saved him in the war, and Kurt tells everyone Finn saved me in the war.
right.
So there's
Uh,
there's that
there's some loyalty,
obligation,
yeah.
right? And so now he's met these people,
Because
and
Kurt told him that I
yeah,
need you to
this is
look
my
after
family.
these people, and now
Yeah.
that's his obligation.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
so now he's met these people. And again, because I'm focusing the theme with Finn is change.
Mhm.
And so now he has an opportunity to do something where he's not taking advantage of people, and he's actually trying to be a good person.
Nice.
Unfortunately, he's in positions where he has to keep going back to the things that he was trying to get away from.
Right. They need him to
So,
pick locks. They need him to like break into
yeah.
places. They need him to fast talk people, and he's
Oh yeah. Oh
he's
yeah.
good at it.
All that fun stuff. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. You know, he doesn't punch people. He talks to them.
Right.
And yeah. So yeah, the failure, the shame. There's a lot of things that I find with Finn is very easy, because I specifically kept his backstory vague, so
Right.
I could fill stuff in.
Right.
Um,
But
I,
again, on the topic of this episode,
Right.
that's something that I should have as a GM said when you're switching your character.
Mhm.
Give me your backstory. Give me at least a page,
Something.
and try to include at least five knives that I can
Mhm.
use. So, and I think five to eight is maybe a good number. It could be more, it could be less, but like I
Right.
wouldn't go much less or much more.
No,
Um,
no, I wouldn't either. I mean, I
Yeah.
would like five. I would almost go like 5 to 7. You
but
give
yeah.
me 5 to 7,
That's
and
enough. That's enough. Well, again, it depends on the length of the campaign. It also means that if
Yeah.
I have more to choose from, I don't have to bring every one of them in.
No.
Like if I was to count the list of named NPCs in Georgie's backstory, secret phobias or horrors, cherished possessions, secret mysteries, like all of these things that she included, I had to say, no, we're not going to meet. We're not going to go to Paris now and meet this other character. We're not going to, because I have to keep this, 3-year long campaign on track. And I've only recently been able to start bringing in stuff about Archie, right?
Yeah.
I brought in his
Yeah.
backstory. We did a great episode where at the beginning we had dream sequences from everybody,
Yes.
and he got to meet his dead fiance, and that was to me one of the most poignant episode like openers that we've ever done, was being able
It
to
was a good
draw
one.
on those. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's get, I mean, this was a really quick topic in the sense that this is, we're doing a 20-minute episode on this theory that could have been summarized in about 15, 5 to 10 minutes, but I wanted to make sure that it was clear. So what do you think would be, as you were more learning about this theory, what pieces of it would you try to incorporate as a good GM?
Well, I would definitely have, for a new story, something like that. Especially if you're having the players make the characters, is
Mhm.
definitely use this and do like just put down, have them do 5 or 7 of them.
Yeah, just
bring
make
them
a
in.
list, set it on the table, give it as a handout.
Here
at
you
the
go.
beginning and say,
Yep.
if this
Here you
helps
go.
you,
Thank you
come
very
up with
much.
backstory. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
would, yeah.
And be prepared.
Maybe even
to
send that out before
negotiate.
session 0, right? Like I would even send a list out, like when you're planning your session 0, which is what we're going to talk about in the next episode. But when you're planning that session 0 and you're sending out the invites to everybody saying, I want to do a pirate story, or I want to do a mob story, or I want to do a
Right.
D&D story set in high fantasy, whatever.
Mhm.
The kind of characters that I want you to play are these, and we can create them together as a group. But here's a list of knives that you can incorporate into your backstory to start
Right.
thinking about now, so that when we get together, blah, blah, blah.
Right. And yeah, and that's another thing. Share them with the other players. It's okay. Trust us. It's okay. And it will make everyone's lives extremely easy, because if you have that secret and, 24 sessions in, you haven't brought that secret in, guess what, kids? It's not a secret.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm going to put this out there that I hate to say it, but I don't entirely agree with you. It's okay to
Oh.
share it with your other players. Definitely share it with
Yes.
your GM, because we're not living in a world of GM versus players anymore.
No,
You giving
we're
me
not.
those knives is not so I can ruin your time. It's to be able to create your time.
No.
But I also don't think it's important to share it with the other players. I think each player should have their own backstory that they reveal slowly. Like when you say don't share it with the other player, I wouldn't do that during. I mean, maybe talk about some of that stuff in the character creation phase, but keep secrets that you can like. I find it more exciting when I'm a player and I find out that these two characters that are part of the party knew something I didn't know. It creates drama and tension that like I mean, even I didn't know. I mean, like obviously my character didn't know, but it's way easier to play surprised when you're surprised. I
Right,
think, you know?
but you see, I've seen it too many times where a player has, and don't tell anyone, but I did this. It's like, okay, cool.
That's PvP, and that's something to talk about too. But
no, it's not PvP. It's like,
Okay.
well, I've done this, and then it's like, okay, so you told me the GM, fantastic, and then the game's going, and the game is going, and the game is going, and the player never brings it up, and it's like,
well,
okay.
I think the point of this topic though is if you're telling the GM something that you're asking the GM to use that knife.
Right.
That's the whole point of it. You're not going to bring it up. And it's not, this is why I'm saying I don't believe it's entirely on the players. Like you said, it's the player has to remember to bring it in. And I don't disagree with you. As a GM, I got a lot of work to do. But also having that list of knives at my disposal means I can say, oh, you know what? I could work this into this next episode, this next story, because I know that.
It's an incredible tool. It really is. It's very
and
useful.
You can just drop those knives, stick them in their back and see what they do. You know what I mean? Like, no, I mean like a hook, like a story hook.
Exactly.
Right? Like you don't have to twist the knife. You can sometimes just stick it in and leave it there and see what the player does with that.
Well,
right?
because some of the favorite ones, like with these knives, is share them with the other players, so that as they're making their players or as they're playing the game, they now know, oh, hey, if I do this in the game, that ties in with this person's backstory somehow, it'll build something.
I'm not totally disagreeing. I just think that, like, for example, let's say, and again, I'm trying to wrap up, but I like the debate. That's the whole point. So let's say you have a secret shame.
Oh yeah.
Right? You let somebody down and they died because of it, or and other players don't know this, but then all of a sudden as a GM, I'm bringing up, like, you happen to go into the bar in Cairo and you're looking for your informant, and across the bar you see the person whose father is the father of the person that you accidentally killed or something, and all of a sudden your character's like, we got to get out of here, and all the other players are like, why? All the characters and players are like, why do we got to get out of here? And you're like, I no reason, I'm just I got a bad feeling, or so all of a sudden there's this like, I know something, you know something, they don't know something, and all of a sudden we've got this like, cake, out with it, Finn. Tell us what's going on, or whatever, right? Like,
right. Yeah. If it can work with it, for me, for a lot of the games, sadly, that I've seen, I've just found it's easier. You got all these beautiful knives, share them with all the other players.
Yeah.
It just makes it a little easier.
I mean,
hey, if you got a group that can do that, okay, high five. Seriously, that's a good group. It really is.
Yeah.
Sadly, I haven't seen it work very well.
Well, I think I got a good group right now, but
you do. You absolutely do.
A very good group. But anyway, moving on. Yes. I will wrap up the episode. I want to say, first of all, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening.
Oh, yeah,
I want to mention a couple things. So in 2 weeks after this episode airs, we have a very special guest. We've had some amazing guests come on our show that we've recorded recently, but in 2 weeks we have a certain, let's say his name rhymes with Ike Mason. We were lucky enough to get the creative director for Chaosium's Call of Cthulhu as a guest on our show, and it was an incredible interview, and I'm so excited. He's talking about how
very
to be
awesome.
We were lucky enough. We also got, and at some point we haven't picked an air date necessarily for it, but we have John Hook from Modern Mythos, from one of the original hosts of the Miskatonic University podcast, writer, Emmy Award winner, blah, 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 blah. We got so many awesome people coming on our show. But 2 weeks from today, we've got Mike Mason coming on. And I wanted to ask you, the listener, to do us a huge favor and make sure you join us. One of the things that's happening lately that I'm very excited about is our Patreon starting to burble and gurgle, and people are starting to, not our Patreon, but our Discord, I mean to say, people are starting to have conversations. We've got more people joining. We've had, some of the people I've mentioned even there on there. I won't say who, but, we've got some people on our Discord that are there to have great conversations, or, good conversations in this case. And we'd love you to join us there. And the way to do that is become a Patreon supporter, free of charge. You don't have to be a paid member to join our Discord. We just have that there to weed out the norms. We want only weirdos on our Discord. So
that's also true,
right? So join us on patreon.com /Good GMs podcast. Join us there. If you need help figuring out how to get to Discord from there, there's an article that Rainey Robertson from Red Juice Studio shared with our Discord, our Patreon supporters. But yeah, we'd love to see you there. Also, anything you want to add about anything, Jeff?
Oh yeah, for all of our loyal listeners, thank you so much for joining us as always. And feel free, reach out, tell us how I'm correct. And if you're listening and you're enjoying it, please give it a like, a follow, and give us a little bit of a blurb of a review.
Even if
Pop
it's
it
just
out
a
there.
starred review, like even just give us 5-star review, and you don't have to, be eloquent and write a paragraph about how awesome you think I am.
Now let's not be hasty.
But just a review would be really helpful. We know that helps push the algorithm in our favor. So if you have time, if you have energy, if you have a minute, a second, 30 seconds to spare, just give us a review. We thank you.
Well,
very
so
much.
Besides the Discord, James, is there any other way that our listeners can get a hold of us to drop a line and tell them how I am correct?
Instagram, Facebook, they can comment on our YouTube videos. We've even got TikTok going now. We've got a lot of stuff happening. So that's, and again, that's a lot to do with RedJuiceStudios.com helping us push the needle forward. So thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and be good.
Or be gooder.
Or be the best at goodness.
Thank you for watching. If you like or dislike what you heard, let us know. If you want to suggest an idea for an episode, ask the host a question, or just tell Chuck and James what you really think of them, join our communities at patreon.com /Good GMs podcast, or find us on the usual social media platforms. For now, I'm E.E. Morris, and you're all good GMs. We are so grateful to all of our Patreon supporters. At the gooder level, Weird Candy. At the good level, Carl Kiesler, Preston DuBose, Francis, and me. Yes, E.E. Morris. I put my own money to back our projects because we're all good GMs.